Hello everyone. Today is 24th of January. My name is Sahil and I welcome you at Thinking Palette, the Hindu newspaper analysis discussion. So guys, in the today's video, we are going to discuss entire analysis of Hindu newspaper along with all the articles, their background and way forward. Now guys, I hope first of all that everything is clear. You are able to see the video and the voice is also audible. Okay, moving on. Now guys, I would like to tell you that you can download the explainer notes of this session also. In this explainer notes we have discussed all those articles that we are going to take here and they can be accessed from our Telegram channel. Link for the Telegram channel is given in description box in YouTube, or you can directly visit Telegram and can search there by typing Thinking Palette by Sahil. You will get the channel and from there you can download PDF. Now, before moving guys, I would like to show you brief overview of the entire newspaper so that you can understand that which articles are actually important in the today's newspaper and at what is the placement of those articles. Now, the first article, uh, Mary Kom led panel to probe wrestlers' charges. So guys, we have seen this particular thing that in past few days, the wrestlers, they have accused that Wrestling Federation of India's president fine had sexually assaulted the wrestlers, and for that particular thing the protest has been carried, and to see that particular matter, to investigate that matter whether the wrestlers have been assaulted or not, for that the Mary Com led panel has been constituted. Now this panel will give its report in 1 month's time. Now guys, understand this particular thing, that such kind of allegations which are coming, it raises questions on professionalism in these bodies. Okay, however the report will come in 1 month's time and then we'll need to see that what reforms will be taken in order to ensure that effective and professional governance in such sports bodies happen. But now you don't need to go track this particular matter day to day detail. Okay, you are not required to go in that. If some governance reforms come, then we need to see here. Then here we can see 21 Andaman Islands named after Paramveer Chakra awardees. So guys, actually what has happened yesterday, that is 23rd of January, was the birth anniversary of Subhash Bose. Okay, and on that particular thing, it was the 126th birth anniversary of Subhash Bose, and Subhash Bose's birth anniversary is observed as Parakram Divas. It is observed as Parakram Divas. Okay, so this is something that you should know. And here we also see this particular thing, that 21 unnamed islands that were there in Andaman and Nicobar, these 21 unnamed islands have been named after Paramveer Chakra awardees. Okay, now for the UPSC examination for which we are preparing, you are not required to go and remember all the 21 names, fine, after which the islands have been named for the sake of examination. Okay, so that is something that is there. Then further moving on, here the next article, religious text to be taught in Madhya Pradesh government schools. Okay, now guys, it has been provided that the holy text they are they are important, they are instrumental in instilling the moral values in students, so they should be taught. That is one thing. But again a question comes that when we talk about state, can state propagate one religion or religious text in the schools? It will be directly coming against the idea of secularism, though the message that yes, spiritual text, religious text often have some moral values, it is relevant idea, but the point is that one specific religion can be propagated, can be taught in government schools. Okay, now moving on guys in this particular direction, after that, Assam to book men marrying girls below 14 years under the POXO Act. Okay, so guys, understand this particular thing guys, that when we talk about the POXO Act, Protection of Children's Against Sexual Offences Act, it provides this particular thing, that a person below the 18 years of age, any sexual relation with a person below the 18 years of age cannot be made. Now what about if the minor girls have been married? Okay, now obviously that particular thing will come under the scope of POXO. Okay, so if any such marriages are happening, below the age of 14, it will be booked under the POXO Act. Okay, now moving on guys in this particular direction further, Okay. Then coming to city section, we have largely the advertisements, tenders and political news here. So you no need to go too much in the detail here. Fine. Further moving on guys, largely the political news etc. has been carried. Okay. Then we'll move directly to editorial section. And in editorial, the first article, democracy and its structural slippages. We'll see this particular article with respect to the examination. President Biden's legal trouble. So some of the raids have been carried on American President Joe Biden's residences, and some classified information files have been discovered from there. So this article is talking about that. Not needed for our examination. Okay. Then further moving on, needed a new approach to data protection for minors. We'll see this particular article with respect to the examination. Recently, data protection bill has been proposed. Okay, promise pragmatism. So recently we have seen this thing that New Zealand's Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern, she had said that she'll be resigning and she will not relook for next elections, because she said that I am facing a kind of a burnout. There is not much left in the tank. She had said this thing. She says that this demand, that this job of a prime minister is a demanding job. It needs a lot of commitment, lot of devotion, but I might not be able to give it now. So therefore, she has proposed her resignation. Okay. So guys, this actually serves as a important lesson in terms of political ethics, that when we talk about the political offices, these offices have a lot of responsibility attached with them, and moment you find that you are not able to do justice, resigning, okay, and leaving the post shows the high integrity. Fine, this is a good example that can be emulated. Then further moving on, an Indian chapter for foreign universities. So recently guys, we have seen this thing that UGC have provided this particular thing, that foreign universities will be allowed to open their campuses in India. So in that respect, this article has come. We'll see this entire article. Then side article, a warrior's history hurdle in Assam. So BJP's assertion that Bagh Hazarika is a functional has angered some Muslims. Okay, now guys, this article is more of a political controversy that has developed. No need to go too much in detail. Then further moving on, for Indian startups, the pace of the finding ladder quickens. Okay, so guys, basically, now this particular article is talking about the funding related data of the Indian startups. Okay, so here it shows that how many startups has raised seed and angel funding, Series A funding, Series B funding, Series C funding. Okay, the basically which cities host most number of unicorns, etc. Okay, now what are unicorns? Unicorns are those startups whose valuation has exceeded $1 billion. Those startups are unicorns. Okay, however, you are not required to go and see that how many startups have taken the Series A funding, how many startups have taken the Series B funding, etc. Fine. Then coming to text and context, here the basic structure of the constitution is being discussed. So from past few days, this is the tussle going on between judiciary and executive. We'll take this particular article with respect to the examination. Then the next page, the dark sky is a natural resource and too much light is polluting it. So we'll take this particular article also with respect to the examination. Okay, then further moving on, after that guys, prime minister leaders pay tribute to Netaji at Parliament Hall. So we have seen this particular thing, that Parakram Divas was observed. Okay, then further guys, the political articles etc. fine has been given. Fine, you don't need to go too much in there. So here again a huge tragedy happened in the Bihar. So we have seen many such huge tragedies where people consume illicit adulterated liquor, and then such medical exigencies, such fatalities happen. Now it raises a question entirely, that whether prohibition, complete prohibition, for example in Bihar, is it successful? Because when there is a complete prohibition, often adulterated spurious liquor will be available to people which they'll consume, and then there will be such a tragic events that will happen. Okay, however, in this article, this is entirely provided how many people have suffered. It's provided. Much important substance is not there. Media body against proposal to empower PIB fact check unit. So we have seen this particular article, I think 2-3 times already earlier. We have seen this thing. Government proposed that PIB, Press Information Bureau, will be created as an organization which will fact check the news articles that are circulating, and if PIB flags a news as fake news, then that news has to be removed from social media. Now activists have questioned this particular thing. They says that why you are making PIB, the government owned body, the sole arbiter, the only arbiter of truth. Okay, many number of times the news which is not favorable to government, it can be flagged as fake news and it might be removed from social media. So don't make PIB as only body for fact checking. So this proposal is being criticized. Okay, now we have discussed it many number of times earlier also. Then Bharat Jodo Yatra, the first genuine outreach to people of J&K, Rahul Gandhi throws weight against. Now political articles majorly are contained here, no need to go there. Then laid off Indian IT professionals face US visa deadline. So guys, recently we have seen this particular thing that majority of the big tech companies such as Google, Facebook, Microsoft, they have carried a large number of layoffs. They have fired people from the jobs, and many of the Indians have also been removed from the jobs. Now, as they have been removed from the jobs, okay, and what is happening, whether their visas will be renewed or not, this is a kind of an issue that they are facing. Then further moving on, INS Wagir 5th Scorpion submarine commissioned. We'll see this particular article with respect to the examination as what it is talking about. Then further moving on, world page, grid failure in Pakistan. Russia NATO member expelled ambassadors. Okay, ambassadors are being expelled here. Okay, Poland wants more tanks for Kyiv. Okay, now a suspect in California killings found dead. Now basically on international page, guys, largely these issues that electricity failure was there in Pakistan, ambassadors are being fired. Okay, all these things are these are the kind of a law and order evolutionary details. Okay, no need to go too much in these particular articles, because I have told you, I think, hundred or number of times that only those articles are important which largely be having some implication on India's foreign policy. Apple targets raising India's share of production to 25%. Now guys, when we talk about the Apple, we know this particular thing that Apple started its manufacturing of its gadgets in India. Right now, out of total output of Apple that is there, 5 to 7%. Right now, 5 to 7% of Apple's 5 to 7% of total output of Apple is being manufactured in India. And now Apple wants that it should be raised to at least 25%. Now guys, understand this particular thing that Apple is largely an organization which designs the electronic devices, but actual manufacturing is outsourced to the third party manufacturers. For example, in India, we have two such players, that is Foxconn and Wistron. These two manufacturers manufacture mobile phones for Apple, and they have established their facilities in India. So particularly the Foxconn, it is going to quadruple their workforce. They will increase their workforce by 4 times in next 2 years so that they can make more products for Apple. Okay, so Apple's 25% production will be from India. This is something that they have provided. Then further moving on here, no foreign investment cap on sovereign green bonds. We'll see this particular article. Excess Q3 jump profits. Okay, Vista records first ever net profit. Corporate trends largely not important. And then we have the sports page. Okay, so guys, understand this thing. I have shown you the entire overview of the newspaper. Understand this thing that simply every article, because it is published in newspaper, is important for UPSC. No, not the case. Some articles you only need to see headlines, some articles you just need to see overview, and then there are some articles which we need to go in detailed analysis. You need to learn this particular wisdom, because guys, so much of information overload is there every day that many number of times we are consuming unnecessary information. Okay, so understand this thing, because everything has been written in newspaper is important. No, not the case. You always need to have two things in your mind. Number one, your syllabus. Only those things you need to see which goes in line with your syllabus. And number two, you should be knowing the pattern of questions that have been asked in UPSC examination in last 10 years at least, both in prelims and mains, because that will give us indication what we need to read, what we not need to read. Okay, so this is one very important thing that you should be knowing. Now moving on guys, and let's take the relevant exam specific articles one by one in detail. So in every class guys, we start with the GS quotation. Now this particular quotation can be used in our GS paper number 1, 2, 3, 4 questions. to complement them. So today we'll take the quotation from Gloria Steinem. Gloria Steinem, who happens to be an American journalist, and she says that a gender equal society would be one where the word gender does not exist, where everyone can be themselves. So when we use word gender, okay, for example, men and women, okay, so the using of the word men and women separately, it inherently shows that there is some difference between men and women. So the moment that the word gender will not exist, then we will understand that we have truly achieved the gender neutral society. Understand this thing, guys. Actually there are two words, one is gender and other word is sex. Now, sex doesn't bother. Sex is the biological differentiation. Sex is a biological differentiation between humans, largely on the basis of their physiological features, biological features. For example, women can conceive a child, male cannot conceive a child. So, sex is a biological differentiation, but gender is a sociological differentiation. When we assign gender, we assign different sociological roles to different people. Men will be given different sociological role, women will be given different sociological role, and often women are seen that they are inferior to men. So problem is of gender. Okay, so this is something that is the idea here, and we can use it in GS paper number 1, social issues. GS paper number 1, social issues. Now taking up the first article, now, dark sky is a natural resource. Dark sky is a natural resource and too much light is polluting it. Okay, we'll see this particular article, guys, with respect to GS paper number 1 and GS paper number 3. GS paper number 1 and GS paper number 3, geography and environment, and as well as with respect to the prelims examination, we are going to see this particular article. Now, let's discuss this particular article, guys. Okay, so first of all, we'll discuss some of the basic background information and then we'll go in that particular article. Okay, now guys, when we talk about the pollution, we have different types or dimensions of pollutions. We have, for example, air pollution, water pollution, air pollution, water pollution, noise pollution. Now, we largely discuss a lot about the air pollution, water pollution, noise pollution. But there is also one more type of pollution which has become a center of concern, that is light pollution. Now, often we see this particular thing. There is an artificial afterglow. Okay, a lot more presence of artificial light. Now this has many of the biological ecological problems which are now being discovered and which are now becoming more important aspect of discussion. So we are going to discuss about the light pollution in this particular article that we are going to discuss. Okay, now guys, first of all, what has happened recently, if you are following the newspaper analysis regularly, you have seen it in our newspaper analysis also, that recently what has happened, India has declared its first dark sky reserve in Ladakh in Hanle. Just a minute. So what has happened recently? Yes. So recently we see this particular thing that India has, just a minute. Okay, so recently we see this particular thing that India has declared its first dark sky reserve, and this dark sky reserve has been declared in Changtang Wildlife Sanctuary. Now there is a Hanle. In the Changtang Wildlife Sanctuary. Now this particular part has been declared as the dark sky reserve. What is a dark sky reserve? It is that area which has minimal artificial light and because there is minimal artificial light, it is possible that you can observe Milky Way galaxy from here, you can observe constellations, stars from here. So we need to have certain areas which are free from artificial light, and Hanle has been declared as the dark sky reserve of India. This is the first dark sky reserve. Where it is in Ladakh. And if the word Changtang Wildlife Sanctuary comes, fine. And if other words, if other options are something different, you need to mark Changtang Wildlife Sanctuary also, fine, because the Hanle is in Changtang Wildlife Sanctuary only. Now, first of all, there is International Dark Sky Association, which is a US based non-profit organization, and this particular organization declares the places as International Dark Sky Place, Dark Sky Park, Dark Sky Sanctuary, Dark Sky Reserve. Okay, and we got the first. Now, basically guys, the article is talking about this thing, that over the years we see this particular thing, that sky glow has increased. Okay, and now what is the sky glow? See, we are using a lot of artificial light. Now these artificial light are being reflected towards the sky, and because of that particular thing, sky appears as it's glowing. That is sky glow. This sky glow has significant impact on ecology, health, as well as it also has implications on cultural consequences. We'll see this particular thing one by one. Now, as per many of the expert reports, it has been provided this thing, that night light or sky glow, it has increased by 9.2 to 10% every year between 2011 to 2022. Every year, the night light, artificial light, its presence is increasing. And I tell you one thing, that we don't even have single international treaty to reduce the light pollution, Now, it has been provided that certain regions reported more night light pollution, some places reported less night light pollution. For example, we see this thing, that skies in Europe had brightened by 6.5%. It has brightened by 10.4% more in North America, and it has been brightened 7.7% over the rest of the world. Now, when we see satellite data provides that actually the night skies have become more bright by just 2% per year. Okay, by just 2% per year. But here we see this thing, that they are being becoming more bright by 9.2 to 10% per year. But satellite data says that they are becoming bright by 2% per year. Why there is a discrepancy? Why there is a gap? This gap is because of the fact that when we talk about the satellites are not able to sense the blue light which is being emitted by LEDs. By light emitting diodes, LEDs, they are emitting blue light. It cannot be sensed by the satellites. So therefore, satellites are giving us the false data, and the night skies are becoming far more bright. Afterglow has increased a lot more. Okay, now basically guys, as we talk about the lights that are being used in the cities, now see this particular thing. If a light is not properly put an angle towards the ground, that what will happen, that light will diverge towards the sky. Moreover, today we see this thing, that the cities, they use a lot of shiny materials in construction. For example, the buildings are made up of glass, and these shiny materials, they reflect a lot of light towards the sky. It reflects a lot of light towards the sky, and because of that particular thing, what happens, night time light pollution increases. Now, when we talk about guys, India, 19.5% of Indian population experiences the level of sky glow. Fine, we experiences that much light pollution. 19.5% of India experiences that much light pollution that we are not able to see Milky Way galaxy. We are not able to see Milky Way galaxy. Is it clear or not? Actually, what happens, guys? Actually, when we see a lot of light, it stimulates the cone cells. Okay, so in human eyes, there are the cone cells and there are rod cells. So cone cells make, by the cone cells we can see in the dark, in the bright light. Okay, and when there is always light, even in the night when there is light in the sky, our cone cells get activated and we are not able to see very dark objects. Okay, we are not able to see the objects which are dark. This is one issue. Now guys, if I just show you one, now here I have shown that how this artificial light It impacts both people as well as ecology. But before that, we'll just see this particular photograph. Okay, so guys, if you observe this photograph, okay, just a minute. Yes. Okay, so here, okay, so guys, here if you observe this particular photograph, you'll find this difference in both of these photographs, that actually the skies that are, the stars that are visible in both these photographs, there is a lot of difference. There is a lot of difference. Now, this was the photograph. This was the photograph that was taken in 2021, and this particular photograph was of the Chemre Monastery. Chemre Monastery. This photograph was taken in usual condition, and this particular photograph was taken after a electricity power cut. After a power cut, this particular photograph was taken. So here we see that the stars are visible more clearly, but here we see that the stars are not that much visible. Why? Because of the artificial light of the artificial light which is around the monastery. So this is obviously very less light compared to the light that we have in cities. Because of that particular thing, what happens, fine, we are not able to view the stars, and at the same time it also has many of the ecological challenges also, health challenges also. Let's see these ecological and health challenges one by one. So basically guys, it has been provided that the beaches which are lit, yes, so here we can see this particular thing, that the lit beaches which have a lot of light, okay, it deters the sea turtle. Lit beaches, it deters the sea turtle from coming ashore to nest. Okay, so sea turtles don't come to shore for nesting activities. Okay, this is one problem. Fine, then we find this thing that nesting seabirds, they don't take flight unless their nesting sites become dark. So we see this thing that there are young burrow nesting seabirds which have their habitation around the sea. They have laid eggs. Now when they want to take flight, they will not take the flight until and unless it is dark. And when they cannot take flight, obviously they will not be able to search food. Their survival will become threatened. So the nesting seabirds, they don't take flight until their nesting sites become dark, and artificial light is always keeping the surroundings lighted, and therefore their survival is getting threatened. And then a 2019 study found this particular thing, that clownfish eggs, they don't hatch when they are exposed to artificial light at night, and when they are not able to hatch for a long time, the offspring is killed. So clownfish eggs are not able to hatch, nesting seabirds are not able to leave their nest, sea turtles don't come to shore for their nesting activities. Then we find that a 2020 study also found this particular thing, that the bright light in the night time, it also interferes with the insect life, fine, and allows insect predators to hunt for longer. Okay, so the insect predators that feed on insect, they hunt for longer, and because of that particular thing, insects survivability, it gets impacted. Moreover, the night light also impacts the human as well. It impacts human as well. Guys, understand this thing, there are certain hormones that are only secreted when it is pitch dark. Now see this particular thing, that melatonin is a very important hormone in the human body, which affects your sleep, it affects your moods, and it affects your cognition. And melatonin will only be secreted when there is pitch darkness. But when we are in artificial lighting, because of that particular thing, what it is happening, our circadian rhythm, find the rhythm of our sleep, it gets disturbed, and in the long run, the disease such as sleep apnea, okay, disturbed sleep, such kind of things can happen. This is very big issue. Now the Convention on Migratory Species in 2020 in Gandhinagar, fine, also tried to discuss this particular issue of increasing artificial light. So we need to put mechanisms in place so that artificial light can be minimized. Okay, and certain places such as the Hanle, which has been converted as a dark sky reserve, there we need to ensure that mechanisms are in place, that artificial lights kept at its minimal. So that is all guys about this particular article, and now we'll move to next article. Now the basic structure of constitution. Now this article will see with respect to GS paper number 2, GS paper number 2, executive versus judiciary issue. Executive versus issues of executive versus judiciary. Okay, now moving on. Okay guys, first of all, you might be knowing this particular thing already as what this article is going to talk, because in last few days we have discussed this issue so many number of times. Okay, almost every day this issue is coming in news. So first of all, let me give you some background. I know that many of you might have heard it a lot, but we can't do anything if it's coming in news every day. So recently guys, what has happened? Vice President as well as Ministry of Law Minister, they have basically actually they have uh, in a way they have challenged the judiciary's power, judicial power. They have challenged judicial powers. Okay, now see this particular thing, that what has happened. On one hand, judiciary says that we have cleared the name for appointment of judges at Supreme Court and High Court. Now, as we talk about guys, the present process of appointment, the judges in Supreme Court and High Court will be appointed by a collegium, and this collegium will consist of the Supreme Court judges. So the collegium will recommend, the names for the Supreme Court judges, will contain 5 people, that is Chief Justice of India plus 4 senior most Supreme Court judges. And secondly, collegium that will recommend the name for the appointment at High Court will have 3 members, that is Chief Justice of India and 2 senior most Supreme Court judges. So Supreme Court is saying this thing, that our collegium is recommending the names for appointment at High Court. Okay, but these names have not been cleared by the executive. Now we know this particular thing guys, just a minute. Now actually what is going to happen, collegium will recommend the name to president. Collegium, so what will happen, collegium will recommend the name to president, fine, and then president will clear those names. Now we know this particular thing, that president always act on aid and advice of Prime Minister and Council of Minister. So in a way the decision is to be taken by Council of Minister. So executive has to take decision. Judiciary says that we are clearing name, but executive is not clearing those names. Okay, so a log jam has been created. But at the same time, executive, they say this particular thing, that this entire system of collegium, it has attracted a lot of criticism. For example, there is a lot of nepotism, lot of favoritism that is there in this collegium system. A lot of nepotism, favoritism is there in this collegium system. Okay, they say that these people recommend the name of their own relatives. This is one issue. Here executive said this particular thing, that we tried to rectify this particular problem through 99th Constitutional Amendment Act. We tried to rectify this problem through 99th Constitutional Amendment Act. National Judicial Appointment Commission was constituted. National Judicial Appointment Commission was constituted, which will suggest the name for appointment of Supreme Court judges, High Court judges, as well as for the transfer of the High Court judges. Okay, and it has the members of judiciary, 2 eminent jurists, as well as the representatives of government in this National Judicial Appointment Commission. But what happened? Supreme Court nullified the 99th Constitutional Amendment Act. Supreme Court said this particular thing, that 99th Constitutional Amendment Act went against the basic structure of Constitution. It went against the basic structure of Constitution. It went against the basic structure of Constitution. Okay, why? Because the Constitution has assumed the judicial supremacy. But what you have done by creating the National Judicial Appointment Commission, you reduced the power of judiciary from judicial appointment at Supreme Court and High Court. You have taken that power from judiciary. So what you done? You reduced judicial supremacy, and as you reduce judicial supremacy, you have just impacted the basic structure, and whatever will go against the basic structure, it will be nullified. It will be ultra vires to the Constitution of India. So therefore, the 99th Constitutional Amendment Act was nullified. It was declared as ultra vires. Now 8 years later, we find that now the vice president had made certain remarks. President had said this thing, that basic structure doctrine has been used by Supreme Court again and again to dilute the parliamentary sovereignty. To dilute the parliamentary sovereignty, again and again the basic structure doctrine is used by Supreme Court. So this is a challenge, this is an attack that has been made on Supreme Court directly by the executive. So guys, this issue is coming, and what we see here is that entire basic structure of the constitution has been questioned by vice president. So therefore, this particular article got published. So guys, I hope first of all that you are able to understand this background that is going on. Okay. Now, starting with this particular article, because if you understand the background, then guys, even you will be completing this particular article in just 3-4 minutes. Fine. Much substance is not there if you know this particular background. Thus, understanding will become much more easy. So, when we talk about the Keshwaranda Bharti judgment, Keshwaranda Bharti case, in this particular case, it was provided that Parliament cannot use its constituent power, they cannot use its power, particularly power under Article 368, to alter or to change the basic structure of constitution. Now, it has been provided by judges from time to time, and even the present Chief Justice of India had said this thing, that the basic structure is the North Star. It is a North Star. It is an unfailing guide which shows the path when the path appears very dark, when we don't understand what to be done, what not to be done. Basic structure shows us the way. Guys, actually, what is basic structure? Basic structure is that part of constitution. If you remove that, constitution will lose its soul. Constitutional will lose its spirit. That is the basic structure. Is it clear or not? Okay. Now, further guys, moving on in this particular thing. Now here I have taken certain points directly from this article, because guys, these are some very good expressions. You should directly use it in your answers of GS paper number 2. So it has been said that basic structure of the constitution is its living spirit. It gives constitution its meaning. Okay. That is the basic structure. It has been said that its existence cannot be pinpointed to any particular provision of the text. If you ask me where basic structure is written, so they have said that you don't find basic structure in any one provision, but basic structure is throughout the entire constitution. Okay, so often it's said, okay, so if often it is said that where is God? So you don't find God at one place, rather God is embodied throughout the world. Okay. So in that same way, when we talk about the basic structure is not found in one provision of constitution, it is throughout the entire constitution. Okay. So it has been provided. Now, different judges, since the Keshwaranda Bharti case came, had provided that actually what will constitute basic structure? What will constitute basic structure? So what is the basic structure? Okay. The federal and secular character is basic structure. Separation of powers among legislature, executive and judiciary is basic structure. Dignity of individuals cannot be taken. Unity and integrity of the nation cannot be taken. It is basic structure. Sovereignty of India is basic structure. Democratic character is basic structure. Welfare state, egalitarian society, liberty of thought, expression, belief, faith and worship, and equality of status, opportunity. Fine, these are the basic features. Now the word has been written among other essential features. It means that this is the part of basic structure, but apart from this, there are other components also in the basic structure. The list is not exhaustive. From time to time, judiciary will be coming out with more such things that what is the basic structure, and in this way judiciary has also provided this thing that when we talk about the judicial supremacy, it is also basic structure. Okay, now moving on. So further, the background of Keshwaranda Bharti case has been discussed. So basically, why Keshwaranda Bharti case came? So basically, in 1971, Indira Gandhi emerged victorious. Fine, she used the slogan of Garibi Hatao, and on the basis of Garibi Hatao slogan, she hailed or she got a big victory, 350 seats out of total 540 seats. Now, guys, understand this particular thing, that meanwhile what had happened, there are some of the judgments that have been passed by the Supreme Court, and these judgments have actually been very important to determine the scope of fundamental rights in India. Now, let's discuss the judgment, fine, in that background. So, you might have heard about the Golaknath case, Golaknath verdict or Golaknath judgment. Now, Golaknath judgment upheld the power of judicial review. It upheld, number one, the power of judicial review. It provided that the judiciary can review any law made by parliament and can provide whether that law is justified or not. Number one thing. Okay. Now, secondly, what happened? Golaknath, just a minute. Secondly, what happened? The Golaknath judgment also interpreted the term law in connection to Article 13 of the Constitution. Now, see this thing. What is Article 13? Just a minute. What is Article 13? So, Article 13 simply provides this particular thing, that anything that is any law, if it goes against the fundamental right, then that particular law will be invalid. That particular law will be unconstitutional. So it was simply provided by Article 13 of Indian Constitution that by law you cannot amend fundamental right. Okay, good thing. But what about Constitutional Amendment Act? Through Constitutional Amendment Act, can we amend the fundamental right or not? Will the word Constitutional Amendment Act also mean a law? Okay, understand very easily. Law cannot amend fundamental right. Okay. Constitutional Amendment Act, can they also not amend fundamental right? Constitutional Amendment Act, are they also the law or they are something else? If Constitutional Amendment Act are law, it means even Constitutional Amendment Act cannot amend fundamental right. So Parliament's power with respect to fundamental right will be diluted. Okay. Now Golaknath case provided this particular thing, that even the Constitutional Amendment Act cannot amend fundamental right. Fine, what it provided? It provided that even the Constitutional Amendment Act cannot amend the fundamental right. Constitutional Amendment Act is also the law. Now, by this particular thing, obviously Parliament's amendment power will reduce and Parliament will become angry. So basically, guys, what happened, because of the Golaknath judgment, Parliament was also not very much happy already with the Supreme Court. Why? Because I'll read this thing. In the Golaknath judgment, it interpreted the term law in Article 13 includes the Constitutional Amendment Act. Fine. So Parliament cannot amend the fundamental right. Then what happened? Parliament came with the 24th Constitutional Amendment Act, and it provided that the constitutional amendment cannot be declared as invalid if it is infringing fundamental rights. So what happened by 24th Constitutional Amendment Act? What happened by 24th Constitutional Amendment Act? Parliament tried to nullify the Golaknath judgment. Parliament provided that Constitutional Amendment Act can amend the fundamental right. Constitutional Amendment Act is not like a normal law. It can do that thing. So it was provided by the 24th Constitutional Amendment Act. It also, here also, the Parliament provided that when we talk about Article 368, now what is Article 368? Article 368 talks about the amendment of the Constitution. It provided that Article 368, which dealt with the Constitutional Amendment Act, fine, it enables the Parliament to add, vary or repeal any article of the Constitution. Now, this is something very important. This is something very important. By Article 368, the Parliament can amend anything in the Constitution. This was one amendment that came. And then, guys, there was one more amendment that came, that is the 25th Constitutional Amendment Act. 25th Constitutional Amendment Act. Now, what 25th Constitutional Amendment Act did? First of all, let's understand it. So, 25th Constitutional Amendment Act added Article 31C. 25th Constitutional Amendment Act added Article 31C. Okay. And now what is Article 31C? Article 31C provides that there are two articles which are very important, DPSPs. In DPSPs, Article 39B and Article 39C is very important. What are Article 39B and 39C? It talks about the distribution of material resources to the community and to prevent the concentration of wealth. These are two articles. So Article 31C came and provided that we will implement Article 39B and Article 39C. And however, when we are implementing it, if for implementation of these articles, if we violated Article 14 and Article 19, that is a fundamental right, then it will be valid. You cannot challenge us. Now, understand this thing. Normally, fundamental rights are justiciable, DPSPs are non-justiciable. Okay, so normally it has been believed that fundamental rights they are more important than DPSPs. What has been done here? Here, government provided by 25th Constitutional Amendment Act that we want to implement Article 39B and Article 39C, which is a DPSP. And for implementing it, if we violated Article 14 and Article 19, you should not stop us. You should not stop us if we violated Article 14 and 19. This was provided in the 25th Constitutional Amendment Act. Okay, good, not at all a problem. Then there was one more thing that was said. It was provided by the government that if we are bringing a law and we are saying that we are bringing a law to implement Article 39B and 39C, and if we are violating Article 14 and Article 19, you don't question us anything. You don't question that how by this particular law we are implementing Article 39B and 39C. You don't question us. Never ask a question from us that how we are going to do that particular thing. Fine. So, what it provided in a nutshell? It provided that if we ever brought a law for implementation of Article 39B and 39C, and by that law if we violated Article 14 and Article 19, you don't ask us any question that how this law is implementing Article 39B and 39C. You don't ask any question from us. So what happened? The power of judicial review of Supreme Court was taken back again. Power of judicial review of Supreme Court was taken back again. Now Supreme Court here came with the Keshwananda Bharti case. Okay, just a minute. Now here Supreme Court came with the Keshwananda Bharti case because a lot of problems were created meanwhile by 24th and 25th Constitutional Amendment Act. A lot of problems were created and Supreme Court dealt with all these things one by one. Keshwananda Bharti case. Supreme Court, number one, Supreme Court provided this thing that you have said that Article 368 can amend any part of the Constitution, can alter any part of the Constitution. You have said this thing in 24th Constitutional Amendment Act. Okay. Secondly, Supreme Court said that you have also said this thing that we cannot question you. Because in 25th Constitutional Amendment Act, you said that you will implement Article 39B, 39C, and for that you will sometimes be violating Article 14 and 19, but you should not question us that how we are actually going to implement Article 39B and 39C by that law. So, in Keshwananda Bharati case, said number one, they said that Parliament can amend Constitution by using Article 368, not at all a problem. But you cannot amend everything of Constitution. Basic structure is something which can never be amended. So, Article 368 doesn't give unlimited power. Secondly, it said that judicial review, when you have said that government cannot be questioned, you have taken away the power of judicial review. Now, judicial review is the part of the basic structure. Judicial review is the part of the basic structure. It cannot be taken back. It cannot be taken back. So, this is something that was provided. So, basically, over that period, what happened? Parliament tried to take a lot of power in their own hands, okay, and to reduce that particular thing, that the Parliament should also be controlled under the Constitution. Keshwananda Bharati case played a very important role here in this particular direction. Okay, so guys, this is all about this particular article. Now, first of all, please comment and please tell me, all the ones who are watching it live, that is it clear or not? Is it clear or not? Because this article or this issue is going on in news from so many of the days. Okay, please tell me, is it clear or not? I am waiting for you. Now, moving to next article. Yes, guys, please tell me, is it clear or not? Fine. So, the next article, it talks about the INS Vagir. Okay, so let's discuss about this. Okay, clear, sir. Yes, clear. Okay, Fazil clear, Anil clear, Pragati, Manu clear, Papa clear, Avnesh clear. Fine, good. Clear. Okay, guys. Now, moving to the next article, INS Vagir, 5th Scorpion submarine commissioned. Okay, now this particular article will see with respect to the prelims examination as well as GS paper number 3. GS paper number 3, indigenization of science and technology. Indigenization of science and technology. GS paper number 3 will discuss this particular article. Okay, now let's discuss it one by one. Before guys going in this particular article, now this article has just provided that INS Vagir got commissioned. Okay, but before going in that INS Vagir, we also need to see some background information which is very much important. So first we'll understand this background information and then we'll go in this particular article. Okay, so basically guys, Government of India has undertaken Project 75. And under this Project 75, we want to build at least 6 Scorpion class submarine. 6 submarines are to be built. Which submarines? Scorpion class submarines are to be built. Now, this project has been taken as a joint collaboration between Mazgaon Dock Shipbuilders Limited. So, Mazgaon Dock Shipbuilders Limited will do this construction and it will be done under the technology transfer from the France, Naval Group of France. So this was a project of $3.75 billion that was started in 2005 and 6 submarines are to be constructed. Guys, understand this background because it is not given in the article. Okay, so please understand it very carefully. So in 2005, this particular deal was signed. Okay, and as I told you, 6 submarines were to be delivered. So guys, the first submarine under this project 75 was delivered in 2017 by the name of INS Kalvari. Then the second submarine was given by the name of INS Khanderi in 2019. Then INS Karanj, that is the third submarine, it has been delivered in 2021. Then INS Vela, it was the 4th submarine which was delivered in 2021. And now the 5th submarine, that is submarine Vagir. It was delivered just a 2 months, couple of months back, 2 months back, and now the Vagir, so this 5th submarine, it was delivered to the Navy and now it is commissioned. Now it was scheduled to be commissioned in services in January. Okay, now what has happened, this INS Vagir that was to be commissioned in January, now it has got commissioned. Okay, so INS Vagir, fifth Scorpion submarine commissioned. So now we have got INS Vagir commissioned in Indian Navy, and now we have been left with one more submarine that is to be delivered, because we have seen in Project 75 6 submarines were to be delivered. So one more will be delivered now, that is the sixth one, which is Vagshir. It has been its trials are going on. In April 2022 it trials started, and it will be delivered by 2023 end. So guys, this is something that had happened. So fifth submarines of the Scorpion class have already been delivered, and by this we now have 16 conventional and one nuclear capable submarine in India. It includes the Russian Kilo class submarines. Okay, it includes 7 of the Russian Kilo class submarines. Then it includes 4 German HDW submarines. Okay, it has 5 Scorpion class submarines and one indigenous nuclear submarine, that is INS Arihan. So in total we have 16 submarines now. Okay, and guys, when we talk about the Vagir, there is one more importance of Vagir. Let's see, Vagir is the third submarine that we inducted in Navy in just 2 years time. So in last 24 years, we have inducted 3 submarines. It shows the capability of India to construct the submarines. Okay, and it shows that India's Navy will become Atmanirbhar by 2047. That is by the year when India's independent, when we will celebrate the 100-year anniversary of Indian independence. Okay, now just one idea I want to tell you: Blue Water Navy. Blue Water Navy. So guys, Blue Water Navy is that navy which has its presence in almost all the waters, all the oceans, all the seas. So when we talk about Blue Water Navy, USA's Navy is already a Blue Water Navy. And in order to become a superpower, you first need to emerge as a Blue Water Navy. So basically, we are inducting submarines, we have inducted the naval ships, okay, basically aircraft carriers we have inducted. By that, India's Blue Water Navy capability is going to get increased. Okay, now moving to next article. Okay, needed a new approach to data protection for minors. Now this particular article, guys, we'll see with respect to the GS paper number 2. Data protection, right to privacy, article 21. Right to privacy, article 21. Now let's discuss the article. So basically, guys, first of all, what has happened? A minute. Yes. First of all, what has happened? Draft Personal Data Protection Bill 2022 was released few months back. Digital Personal Data Protection Bill 2022 was released. Now guys, understand this particular thing, that when we talk about the article number 21, article 21 talks about the, just a minute, Supreme Court, first of all, in Puttaswamy judgment, Supreme Court in Puttaswamy judgment, provided that right to privacy is a fundamental right under article 21. Okay, and to give this fundamental right to the citizens, we need to bring a legislative framework. A law is to be brought. Now, what happened after the Puttaswamy judgment came? Government in 2018 constituted B.N. Shri Krishna Committee. This committee suggested the personal data protection framework in India. It suggested. And on the basis of it, government even introduced Personal Data Protection Bill. But this Personal Data Protection Bill, though it was introduced in Parliament, it stayed in Parliament for nearly 3 years. But last year, 2022, government withdrew it. Last year in 2022, government withdrew this personal data protection bill because there were a lot of challenges, lot of issues that developed in this particular bill. Now what had happened? After withdrawing this particular bill, a new bill was introduced in parliament. Fine, to implement the article 21, to implement the Puttaswamy cases judgment. Okay, this is background. This is background that you should know first. And after understanding this background, now we'll go in this article. So this article is talking about this new draft. This article is talking about this new draft that has been released. Okay, it's critically analyzing this particular draft. And guys, it is analyzing this particular draft vis-a-vis the impact on Indian teenagers with the usage of their internet and the responsibilities that the platforms will have towards these minor children when they are using the internet. This is the major issue that is being discussed here. Now, guys, it has been provided in this Digital Personal Data Protection Bill 2022 that if the people below the age of 18, if they need to use internet, they need to take a consent from their parents. Only when their parents give a consent, they can use the internet. And all the social media websites such as the Instagram, Facebook, they need to ensure that the users, fine, if they are the children below the age of 18, parental consent is taken first of all. So parental consent for all data processing activities for the children who are the age of 18 years is compulsory. Now, there are many issues that will come here. Now, guys, number one, instead of incentivizing the online platforms to build the safer and better services for minors, now it is not putting responsibility on platform that you ensure that your platform doesn't show any harmful content. Rather, it is being provided that just if you have taken permission from parent, the teenagers can use that platform. After parents have given the consent, no problem. They watch their violent videos, they watch their propaganda, they watch their hate, not at all a problem if the parent has given the consent. So rather than putting responsibility on platforms to ensure that their platforms are safe, just parents' consent has been considered as everything will happen. But you see the condition in India. In India, the parents themselves rely on their children to navigate through the internet. Now, many of your parents, guys, who are watching the video now, how many of your parents understand the nitty-gritties of parental consent of internet? Your parents are taking your help to use internet. They are asking from you what is to be done, what is not to be done, how to make a profile on Facebook, how to watch a YouTube video. So in India, we have very low digital literacy and parents themselves are dependent on children. Okay, so it is very easy that the children can influence their parents or parents might not be able to give that consent. That is actually very big issue. Okay, second, it does not take in account the best interest of child standard. It does not take in account the best interest of a child, best of interest of child standard. Now see this particular thing, guys, that already India had signed the Convention on the Rights of the Child 1989. We have signed the Convention on the Rights of the Child 1989. And in this convention we signed in 1989 and we ratified in 1992. So 30 years have already happened. Then there are also other many acts we have brought for the children. For example, Commission for Protection of Child Rights Act 2005, Right of Children for Free and Compulsory Education Act 2009, Protection of Children from Sexual Offences Act 2012. All these laws we have brought, these laws are to ensure the best interest of the child. Best interest of the child. But this particular law, this particular bill that has come, it is not going in line with the best interest of the child. Why? Because guys, see this thing, that many number of times teenagers, find the children of around 16, 17 years, they are using internet to express for their self-expression, for their personal development. Okay, they get exposed to the ideas which are important for their personality development. Now, parents want often that their children should know only about one type of an idea. Some idea which is different than your cultural idea, it is seen as bad. So point is that how children will get exposed to that particular idea, their fullest development will not happen. Their fullest development will not happen. Okay. Now, the bill does allow the government to provide exemption in the future from strict parental consent. Okay. Now bill provides that okay, in future there can be certain exemption from the parental control, but those conditions are not very clear. Those conditions are not very clear. The next issue that comes, guys, here in this particular draft is that every platform have to obtain a verifiable parental consent in the case of minors. Now see this thing. If you are above 18 years, you don't need any consent, you can use internet. If you are less than 18 years, you have to give your parental consent. Okay. Now, how these platforms will know who is less than 18 years and who is above the 18 years? For that particular thing, what had happened, the Facebook or these platforms, they had to go for verifiability. They have to go for verifiability. So they have to verify the age of every user. And for that, they will use ID proof, or they will use facial recognition, or they will use a reference based verification, or any such kind of a thing. Now in ID proof, they will ask for Aadhaar card, they will ask for voter ID card, or any such kind of a thing. Now what is the problem, guys? The problem will come that now they will get even more data. They will get even more data. Aadhaar cards, voter ID cards, earlier they were not collecting. And by this, again, there is even more possibility in future that their privacy will get compromised, because so much new data will be given to them. So the point is that how they will manage this more personal data that we get now. There might be a possibility that there can be some data breach, identity theft that can happen in the database of these companies, and at the end of the day, their privacy is getting impacted even more. So this is one very big challenge that comes here. Okay. So the point is that, guys, we need to bring solutions for such kind of a challenges that we are facing. Now, what can be way forward? Okay. Now, what can be way forward? What can be the solutions? So let's discuss these solutions one by one. Now, first of all, guys, there is need to move from blanket ban on tracking, monitoring, etc. And we need to adopt a risk-based approach of these particular platforms. Now, see this particular thing. We have taken a blanket ban approach. For example, below 18 years, you cannot use platform until and unless your parents are giving advice. Rather than that, what we need to do? We need to adopt a risk-based approach to platform obligations. Now, see this thing. Platforms such as Instagram, Facebook, they need to carry risk assessment of their platforms. That on their platforms, is there any material which might be bad for the children? Is there any such kind of issues on your platform which makes them unsuitable for the minors? So these platforms, they should be mandated to carry a risk assessment for minors. Okay. And not only age verification is the all thing that they can do. Okay. The next is that what we need to do, we need to relax the mandatory parental consent. Right now, the parental consent is 18 years. So if you are below 18 years, you have to take consent. So we need to relax it to 13 years in line with the many of the jurisdictions around the world. Okay, because once a child has turned 14, 15, 16, the child can understand the implication of many things. So imposing a ban on that for 15, 16-year-old child is not right. So this age of 18 should be brought to 13 years. Okay, we have many of the examples such as the United Kingdom, USA, California, New York, okay, which have came out with the age appropriate design codes. Basically, guys, it has been provided that for different things, different ages can be prescribed, and that thing will know after carrying a comprehensive survey of Indians with respect to their online habits, with respect to their digital literacy, with their respect to preferences, attitudes. On that particular basis, we can come out with the appropriate design codes, okay, which will allow that, okay, what things will be allowed, what things will not be allowed. So this customized approach is something that is need of the hour right now. Fine. So that is all, guys, about this particular article. Okay. Now moving to next article. Okay, an Indian chapter for foreign universities. And Indian chapter for foreign universities. Okay, now, guys, recently what has happened? Now, this particular article, first of all, will be important for GS paper number 2, education. GS paper number 2, education, this particular article is going to be important. So basically, guys, recently what has happened? what has happened recently, University Grants Commission, it has issued guidelines. It has issued guidelines for the entry of foreign institutions in India. For the entry of the foreign institutions in India. So now the universities such as the Stanford, okay, Stanford, MIT, etc., they can open their campuses in India. They can open their campuses in India. For this thing, the UGC's guideline has been released. Now, this particular article is going to evaluate this particular decision of releasing the UGC, this particular decision. Okay, now let's discuss them one by one. So basically, UGC released this particular guideline, and this particular guideline is in line with NEP's National Education Policy 2020's idea of internationalization. Internationalization. So, National Education Policy provided that we need to internationalize education. For example, we need to ensure that more and more foreign children, students are coming in India to get education, number one. Number two, we need to ensure that best talent, best faculties from across the world we are bringing in India. And thirdly, we also encourage the foreign institutions that they open their branches in India. So this internationalization of education was proposed by the new education policy 2020, and to implement it now we have come out with these guidelines by UGC to bring the foreign universities in India. Now guys, it has been provided that from past 2 years, for nearly 2 decades, 20 years, proponents have emphasized the need to provide conducive conditions for such institutions. Okay, from 20 years we are trying to see that how we can provide such conducive environment, how these foreign institutions can come in India, but up till now it had not been successful. If you remember a few days back when we discussed this particular article, I have also shown you the timeline that how government had introduced bills from time to time. Okay, now moving on, this particular article says that this point or this is good thing, but at the same time we also need to account for certain concerns and certain problems that will come in this particular direction. Now what are the concerns that are coming? Now guys, see this particular thing, there are threats. Number one threats is that basically the universities are concerned about the potential adverse effects of setting up offshore campuses. Now see this particular thing, there are certain universities which have developed a very huge reputation after working for decades and decades. They have a very strict quality control. For example, guys, when we talk about the institutions such as the Stanford University, MIT, okay, when we talk about the Princeton University, when we talk about the Oxford University, they have a very stringent quality control in their campuses. Many of them might not be eager to come in India because guys, the point is that if they come to in India, many of the quality will get diluted. So many of the educational institutions which are only focused on quality, they don't have much of the materialistic motives to go offshore. They don't want to go offshore. One problem. Second problem is that guys, that the countries which have invited such campuses, other countries have invited the foreign campuses in their own country, but they have to do a lot of struggle with that particular thing. For example, they have to give land at almost no cost. They need, the countries which have invited the foreign universities, they need to bear the bulk of infrastructure cost. They have to promise them academic, administration and financial autonomy that they enjoy in their home country. So point is that you have to give a lot of relaxation. Other countries have given that. India also have to give so much of relaxation to these foreign institutions. Okay, but just by becoming a foreign institution, will they bring that quality? Can't we use the same land, same infrastructure, same resources to create more IITs? Fine. This is one issue that comes in this particular direction. Okay. Now, moving on. Now, the next issue that comes here is that basically, now, a legislative framework would have should be put up in the place. Now, when we talk about the new education policy, National Education Policy 2020, it favored a legislative framework that through through law, we should allow the entry of this particular universities. But now what has happened? UGC, University Grants Commission, through the regulatory route. Now UGC is a regulatory agency, and through its guidelines, these agencies, these foreign universities have been allowed. Now, because of this particular thing, guys, what can happen? First of all, guys, because we don't have a clear law, it might open up many of the challenges in the times to come. One thing. Second thing is that what is the reason that we diluted, rather than bringing a law, just we brought the regulatory guidelines through UGC? What's the reason? No clarification has been given by the government. The next issue that comes here is that, fine, the educational institutions. Now, which educational institution can open their campuses in India? Only those institutions which have a reputation in their home country. And if they have good reputation in their home country, they can open the campuses in India. Now, guys, the point that is coming is that just you have a reputation. Is it a sufficient thing? Okay, there are other parameters also. For example, when they will open their campuses in India, what impact they will create on the social cultural milieu of India. Why just only this parameter has been identified, that they need to be reputed? This is a very shallow ground on which we are giving permission to foreign universities to operate in India. Now there is an assumption that UGC will constitute a standing committee, and this standing committee will be doing all the process. They will process the applications and will identify only the best institutions, and by their own wisdom they will ensure all other standards. But we cannot just assume it. So we need to have more parameters just than the parameter of having a reputation in your home country. This is one thing that has been there. Then, guys, the next thing is there, that this particular regulation that have been brought, it also fails at many of the points. Where it fails, for example, the draft regulation demands that the quality of education imparted by these institutions in India must be on par with the quality of courses at their campus in their own country. Okay. Now, so you see this thing. This is a very funny thing. On one hand, you say that you provide exactly the same quality of education in India which you are providing in your own home country. But then we also say that they should not offer any program of study which might jeopardize the national interest of India or the standard of higher education in India. Okay. Now, many number of times, guys, such ideas are exposed, such ideas are given to the students, which shows government in the negative light. Now, we have seen over the past few years that when in the university campuses such ideas got propagated, it did not invited a good reaction. So point is that one hand you say give the quality of education which you are giving in your home country, and then you say that you should not offer any program which might jeopardize the national interest. Now, this word national interest is a very big word. This is a very big word. For example, next then it has been provided that these institutions should not provide anything which is contrary to the sovereignty, integrity, security of the state, or will impact the friendly relations with the foreign states, will impact public order, decency, morality. You cannot provide any education which will breach that. Now, this is a very big ground. Okay. So this is the issue that has happened in this particular direction. Okay. So, guys, the issue that comes here is that basically we did not understood entirely this entire problem, and the solution that has been provided, it has a lot of loopholes. Moreover, government need to understand some more things also. Number one, government is saying this thing that the students are going abroad to get education, but now they can get the same education in India. But government need to understand that students are not going abroad only for the degrees. They go abroad for the experience, the post-study work visa, income opportunities, better career prospects that are there. Okay, and obviously they will not get those career prospects in India. So still they'll prefer to go abroad. Second thing is that basically, actually the degrees in abroad are affordable compared to India, because when they go abroad, they are able to get a lot of job opportunities. They do part-time work, and by that part-time work, they are able to support their education. But they might not be able to do that thing in India. So this is something that's the big concern which is coming. Okay, so that is all, guys, about this particular article. Fine, I hope that you have understood it, and now we'll move to next article. Now, before that, let's take some of the doubts. Hi sir, can these platform itself reduce or minimize the contents which could damage children instead of parental consent? Yes, Krishnamurti, this is being suggested that you remove those references from your platform which might damage children or mm, their thinking. Fine. So we don't have any rule, but it is being suggested. Okay. Then moving on. Sir, what should be the way forward for this tussle between judiciary and executive? Okay. The way forward between the judiciary and executive is this, that both need to understand their constitutional limits and both need to respect the constitutional spirit rather than openly going on such kind of a tussle. This will be the way forward, Anamika. Okay. Vocabulary भी करवा दो थोड़ा. Dear, vocabulary is not my area of expertise. Okay, so that's why I am out. Okay, so vocabulary I don't have, that is actually not the area of expertise. So uh, moving on. Democracy and its structural slippages. Now this article we'll see with respect to GS paper number 2 polity. GS paper number 2 polity. Okay. Now actually guys, as we talk about this article has written little bit in literary sense. Little bit this particular article has been written in literary sense. Now the article is talking about that when we talk about the democracy's most important fundamental pillar is devolution of power. Power is to be devolved, power is to be decentralized at multiple levels. Center, then state, then Panchayati Raj institutions. Now, when we talk about the devolution, it occurs on the promise of the individual and equality. Okay, so devolution will only occur when you have a confidence in the capabilities of individual and when the principle of equality is there. When you consider other person equality, then only there will be the devolution of power that will be there. Now understand this particular thing guys, that when we talk about equality has been considered as an important principle. Many of the religions have given importance to equality. For example, when we talk about the Buddhism, okay, Christianity, Islam, Sikhism, they were the proponent of social equality. But here equality was demanded by the subjugation of individual. Here the equality here. However, the equality that was demanded was the equality that was discussed here. It demanded the subjugation of individual to the community or society. We are talking about equality, but at the end of the day, the individual has to serve the goals of society. Okay, cannot go against the society. Now, next, guys, the idea is talking about that today when we talk about the egalitarian ideology, the ideologies of equality. Okay, all the ideologies of equality that we have, what it does, it reshuffles existing social hierarchies and creates some space for the upward movement of the lower rungs. Now, what is the idea of equality that we see here? See this thing. For example, there are the Dalits. Okay, let's say there are Brahmins, there are Kshatriyas, there are Vaishyas, and then there are Shudras. Equality means that they can move upward in the hierarchy. They get better opportunities for their growth and development. Equality often is not seen that they are treated equal to them. Equality is just seen giving them opportunities so that they can go for some kind of a mobility, vertical mobility. Now, when we talk about guys the equality, understand this particular thing, that equality or uniformity in the democracy can be brought through proper opportunities for representation, and that proper representation can happen through free and fair elections. When we bring the free and fair elections, through free and fair elections, there will be the representative government that will be chosen, and that representative government will ensure that everybody is given their freedom, everybody is given their equality, all such kind of things. Is it clear or not? So the elections are a means of self-correction. Okay, but a question here comes that elections which are being said that they will give you all equalities, liberties, but are elections completely free and fair? This is a very big problem, that are elections completely free and fair? Now guys, we see this particular thing, that when we talk about the elections, an individual, while individual going to the polling booth, and when he is voting, he is independent there, he is free there while voting. Fine, to whosoever the person wants, he can vote. But actually, but actually he is conditioned by a large number of things. Numerous demand of the family expectations, community expectation, religious linkages are there, cultural linkages are there, political alternatives. Now see this particular thing. Suppose I'm a voter, I have 10 alternatives I can choose. Okay, there are a lot of pressures. My religion, suppose one person is from my religion, I will feel inclined to vote towards that. One person is from my caste as well, I will be inclined to vote for that. So there are so much of the factors which are actually pushing the individual while that individual is making a choice. So the point that comes in this particular direction is that, is an individual while voting is completely free to what he can vote or to what he cannot vote. Fine, this is something that has happened. Okay, now guys, the article is talking about this particular thing, that when an individual is concerned, individual does not create the choices which are given by the parties, very often referred in false propaganda and even more false promises. So many number of times individuals, because of these particular pressures, they are not able to use their choices, and when they are not able to use their choices significantly, often they might not be able to choose that government which is fairly representative to them. And the point is that even entire process of the elections have been questioned, that is it even completely fair. Okay, so guys, the article, as we talk about it, it was written more in a kind of a literary sense. Okay, now moving to the next article. No foreign investment cap on sovereign green bonds. No foreign investment cap on sovereign green bonds. Okay, now basically guys, what do we understand by the green bonds? What do we understand by the green bonds? So basically, green bonds are the instruments to raise money, where the money that will be raised will be used in climate sensitive infrastructure. Now recently, Reserve Bank of India had said that they will issue the green bonds. The Reserve Bank of India had said that they will issue the green bonds. Okay, okay. It has been provided that auction of 160 billion of sovereign green bonds will be done. Now what government has done? Government has just clarified that a foreign investment cap is not there. Okay, it's not a limit that, okay, some foreign institutional investor, for example, can invest only 10 billion or 20 billion. Whatever you want to invest in these sovereign green bonds that are being issued, you can do that thing. Okay, what is green bond? Green bond is the financial instrument by which the money will be raised, and that money will be used for climate sensitive infrastructure. Okay, that is about it. Okay, and then guys, the main practice question for today. So question for today, it says, the presence of foreign universities in India will bring in an element of competition and increase the standard and quality of Indian institutions. Critically analyze. So this will be a GS paper number 2, 10 marker question. Okay, so that is all guys about it. I hope that you have understood it, and with this we come to an end to the today's newspaper analysis discussion. So guys, if you have liked, please do hit the like button, and I hope that you have enjoyed it. And guys, please do leave your comments as you do every day. I personally read every single comment of yours, and it really motivates us to do even more hard work. Thank you so much for all the lovely comments that you read. Thank you so much. Fine. There is one question, sir. Any merit of establishing foreign institution in India? Yes, dear. The merit is that you will have more choices. You have more alternatives. Fine. Indians who want to go to foreign to get good quality education, they will get it in India itself. Many of the other African countries, people, students who are going to USA, fine, but their living cost is high, so they can come to India. Okay, fine. So that is all, guys, about.